In a world where the concept of power is just so expansive, Dragon Ball has always been somewhat of a power creep, but from the earliest times we can remember, things weren't nearly as they are now. There was once a much simpler time in Dragon Ball where battles revolved around martial arts skills, as the concept of ki was only known to a select few individuals on Earth like Master Roshi and Grandpa Gohan. Fast forward to Dragon Ball Super and the current power levels are out of this world, and the introduction of this thing called God Ki changed the course of Dragon Ball forever. Simply put, God Ki is an energy presence most prevalent within immortals, but Goku and Vegeta have managed to manipulate it into their own, which is something almost never seen before, but I do say almost. As new as God Ki is to us, this form of power has been around since long before the age of Goku, as Beerus and Whis themselves have existed long before him, and God Ki has been around even longer than that, but how did it even come about in the first place, and how did it get to the point where it is now? While God Ki itself is still very much a mystery in Dragon Ball Super, the story of a pharaoh, a lost race, and a young Saiyan boy offer us a fantastic fan-made story dating back many millions of years before the start of our series in a manga called Dragon Ball Infinity by one of the greatest authors slash artists in our community, Jordan Durham. When we last left off in Dragon Ball Infinity, we're introduced to a young Saiyan boy named Taima who, at a very young age, crash landed on this strange planet after his ship was thrown off course and taken in by a local to a place called Aliaban City ruled by a pharaoh, and interestingly enough, all of the inhabitants of this land seem of a very familiar race. I'll be sure to link both the fan manga and Jordan's Twitter down below in the description box, so you guys make sure you go check it out and show as much support as you can to the homie. Also, before the video begins, don't forget to hit that notification bell to never miss an upload again, because I have a couple of new ideas I think I may want to try out and you won't want to miss it. But without further ado,
I got swords on my back, tell my ride back. Ninjas with me, niggas doing stars at these bitches. Eating ramen noodles in the hood with my niggas.
imagine a time even before the primality and rampage of the Frieza race, where pyramids covered the landscape and things are much more primitive than anything like Capsule Corp. A few years pass and Taima has grown into a young man and really resembling a true Saiyan at this point, is sent off by the pharaoh to grab this mystical water from the life stream, which is used to keep the pharaoh young and powerful. You see, the thing is, on planet Naru, which is the planet they currently inhabit, the moon is only visible for 7 days a year, so within that time it goes through all of its lunar cycles, leaving them in total darkness. Along with other preparations, the pharaoh seems like he kinda uses this to better persuade his people to keep giving him the life water, but right now it looks like more of a tradition, and it even seems like it may be a privilege for someone to go fetch the life water for the pharaoh. Taima luckily, however, was selected along with a group of young members of their tribe, so shortly they set off about their journey. Hour upon hour passed as the young warriors set off for the life stream in the menacing desert heat, and right away we start to see all of the guys traveling with Taima having quite a rough time keeping up as the weather just beats them down. Even Taima, who was previously very determined on this mission, gets beat by the heat and the lack of water, and eventually he can't even stay on his feet and passes out. When he comes to, not much happens immediately outside of him being able to eat slightly before heading towards the river, and when he gets there he luckily is able to steal a boat from unnoticing bystanders, and within a short stretch he reaches his destination. Taima is amazed by what he sees, as this fountain irrigating the water in the middle of the cave, as well as just the structure of everything in here, is pretty amazing as he charges in. But it's at this time that, out of nowhere, a creepy voice speaks out that he's been waiting for him that scares the crap out of the Saiyan. In a flash, a strange looking beaked being appears before Taima, introducing himself as Mirai. And he also says that there's no need for explanations as he already knows all about the young Saiyan. He says that although he and the one he calls Noob may look different, his kind and the Thoth actually share a common ancestor. Taima begins to interrupt the strange guy's explanation, but he commands respect and goes on to explain that the pharaoh, or Noob as Taima knows him, original name is Genzai, and the two of them are somewhat brothers in a sense. They are the eldest of their respective tribes separately, but were born from the same being, the mystical Kaku no Kami. and showing blinding speed as he speaks, he appears behind Taima, but what of this god amongst men that birthed these two nations? Kakanokami was a powerful sorcerer who lived on this planet before it was all desert and wasteland like it is now. Although the power he possessed and his wisdom were divine, his mortality was not, as he aged pretty much the same just like everyone else, although he did find a way to cheat death and almost lived forever. Kakanokami realized that the planet was an energy source for ki and that it could be harvested, so he used his powers to create a machine that was capable of draining the planet of his ki really close to the planet's core. That very vacuum that was created leads to this fountain, but that's not all. He wasn't just draining the planet of his ki, he was concentrating it in the process of creating God Ki. This is when he goes on to explain that there are deities that have existed for millions of years that are more powerful than Taima can ever imagine, and this is all possible thanks to God Ki. Eventually, another powerful sorcerer from another realm appeared on the planet shortly after Kakanokami consumed this water for the first time, but back then it was extremely concentrated, so it quite literally turned him into a god. The sorcerer, seeing and sensing this intimidating power and out of fear of Kakanokami, separated his being into the two tribes, his and Genzai's, thus making them the very first generation, also dividing their ancestors' abilities among them. Mirai inherited his foresight and magical prowess, while Genzai his power and strength, and this is pretty much the first known story of God Ki. Taima assumes that Noob needs the life water to live, although Mirai corrects him, saying that it's actually called God water, and Noob really has all of them brainwashed into serving him and keeping him powerful and godlike forever, but of course there is a very tragic downside to this. Obviously the planet's energy won't last forever, and the effectiveness of the God water has become shorter and shorter over time, and Noob knows this, which is making him desperate and hostile. Eventually it's going to come to a point where he'll have to declare war against Mirai's tribe to try to enslave them so he won't have to share what's left of the fountain's water supply. Originally the two had arranged an agreement that they would lead their separate tribes independently to avoid conflict, and it was supposed to stay like this, but Mirai knew it wouldn't last forever, only as long as the God water remained in large supply. With such a long and educational explanation, Taima's still most curious about how this guy knows so much about him still, even though he knows he can see the future, to which Mirai replies that all of this will be revealed in due time, but right now, Taima must get this water back to Genzai to ensure his destiny unfolds how it should, but the last thing he leaves him with is that he can't really explain it, but out of all of the visions he's ever had, and this guy has had a lot, the visions of Taima's arrival was the absolute strongest, so he doesn't question anything about their encounter. A planet filled with life energy so powerful to the core that it provides water capable of granting you godhood pretty much. An origin for God Ki never really popped up in Super too much after the initial explanation, but Taima, Mirai, and the people of both their tribes are living in a time that seems will decide the future of the rest of the universe, and the outcome is what we see in our time. Although Goku didn't gain his god powers in this way, this does remind me of the divine water he took way back in the day, which was in no way on this level, but it's still pretty cool when objects or things like this are given significance like the god water. I really like that. As Taima heads back to Aliaban after filling the gourd of water, I can't really help but wonder if the things that Mirai spoke of will cling to his mind, as very important decisions are in his near future, and with such a precious resource in his hands as he has right now, does he even realize the magnitude of the situation? That's gonna do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching until the end. As always, if you made it this far, I really appreciate all of the love and support. You guys are absolutely awesome. God Ki, while shown to be obtainable by various ways in Super, always had this kind of, I guess, mysterious lore to it that made me want to know as much as I could find out. And while information and content relating to God Ki may not be abundant, Dragon Ball Infinity is one of the most detailed stories I've ever seen, so huge shout out to Jordan for his work on this. This is just awesome. Both the links to his fan manga and his Twitter will be linked down below in the description box, so be sure to go check him out and show him a ton of love while you're at it. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter as well to stay up with me and all Dragon Ball related content. But anyways, have a great day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.